everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's really nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today for my October wrap-up and November intentions video. I have a lot to go over as per usual, so let's just hop right in. We're going to start with our Oracle card pull of the month. I say our, but I guess mine. If you are also joining along for that, then I fully welcome that. And for the month of October, I drew the Joy card. As many of you know, from my September-October video when I did this a month ago, September was a pretty rough month for me for a multitude of reasons, and October, it wasn't the same, it was different stuff, but it is on the trajectory back up. It's just slow going, but I completely welcome that and I understand that. And when I draw the card of the month, I like to read what's in the guidebook, and then I like to get out my spread journal, note down a dictionary definition of whatever the keyword is, look at the card, pull out any symbols, do some research on the symbols, and then pull forward any questions that I might have or want to ask myself throughout the month. And I did do that. I started with the definition. I think this is just a good way to level set with the card and bring forward anything that maybe I haven't thought about when perceiving what the card means to me. I always like to touch base with the dictionary definition. I don't know if it's my English degree background coming in or what have you, but it gives me a good place to start, so at least I can get something on paper, and from there things keep rolling. It helps give momentum. So I looked up the definition for joy, and the first part is a feeling of great pleasure and happiness. And then it went on to say that joy does not depend on circumstances. So for me, I took that as we can find joy throughout our days, whether or not we are feeling happy, whether or not we are happy. There are small things and small moments of joy in our everyday, whether it's hitting all of the green lights on your way to work, whether it is someone paying a really nice compliment to you that you just weren't expecting and it brightened your day, someone let you go in front of them in a line. Whatever it is, joy is not contingent upon happiness. And it says that happiness is often situational, that we put our happiness in correlation with what's going on around us. And I thought that was really insightful and a part of joy that I have never thought about before. So it really got my brain thinking. Then I looked at the card and I decided to write down the symbols that I found within this card. And the number 3 stood out to me because there are 3 women. And I believe the 3 women are all the same person. So it gives that link to the Empress, I believe I have down here somewhere. There's a lot of purple going on in here and yellow. There is a crescent moon here on this woman's head. And then I saw this as a feather. So I took all of those symbols and I jotted them down, and then I looked farther into their symbolism. What could they mean? So we have strength, balance, divinity, luck, connected to the Empress for number 3. And I thought this was a great tie-in to the tarot. What ways can the Empress lead me to joy or bring out joy? And the Empress feels very connected to nature, to the earth, and being happy with just that, just the simplicities of life. Purple it speaks to spirituality, royalty, love, solidarity, and mysticism. Yellow exemplifies happiness, intellect, cheer, prosperity, optimism, and hope. A crescent moon is about empowerment, fertility, protection. It represents the femaleness. Feathers are about honor, trust, freedom, and strength again. And then a bit from the guidebook that I pulled out, as I always do, is joy is part of humanity's essence and does not rely on external sources. Your joy cannot be taken without your consent. Yes, people, I want to say that again. Your joy cannot be taken without your consent. So do not consent to it. And that is truly what resonated with me the most with joy this month. What brings me joy? It doesn't matter what it is. Know that it cannot be taken away from you without your consent. And if someone is trying to or chipping away at you, maybe they don't contribute to your joy in a way that is healthy and that they should be involved in your life, right? It sounds harsh, but it's true and it's honest. The next thing I did is I pulled some questions and journal prompts or spread prompts, and I just jotted these down right away after writing the symbols. These are what came to my mind. So what brings me joy? What joys am I ignoring in my life? How can I maximize on my joy? What about connecting joy in my inner child? Is there something I can look into with that? And what does my joy give to the world? I think it's always a good perspective to flip it. It might sound a little selfish, but I think it's a healthy thing to look at how your energy affects others. What does my joy bring out in others? How does it affect people? Joy really taught me this month about positive self-talk, creating boundaries, expressing gratitude when that moment of joy or thing of joy comes across the table, thinking about how that joy makes me feel and wanting to give it back to others, having lightness and fun, like these women here are dancing, and taking in the true beauty all around me. I think after such a hard few months, I mean, yes, I talked about September, but the truth is the past year and a half has really been a tough one for me. And really taking stock and giving attention to joy was very healthy for me to do. And with that being said, let's pick our card of the month for November. So I'm just going to get centered here. This month we have guidance. Very nice. What's drawing my eye? Obviously we have this angel figure, but on her wing, it's hard with the glare here, but there almost looks like there's a face on her wing, which is very interesting. Like he's looking over her shoulder in a protective way. Her body language is actually very relaxed. It's not tense. There's an authoritative measure to it, but it's in a very soft way. I'm noticing the cloud, the mountain in the background, the water here, that the background is quite dark, but that it gives way for her to really be shining and bright. So let's look in the guidebook about guidance. To seek the wisdom of others, to be open to enlightenment, to offer guidance to others when sought. A being radiates the energy of a guardian angel offering gentle, subtle guidance, symbolized by the gentle point of the finger. As you go, you know you aren't going alone. There are earth and spirit side beings, including the highest version of yourself, who have traveled similar terrain and are available to help you navigate your own path. With a humble mind and open heart, invite their guidance into your life and prepare to receive wisdom in abundance. Return the favor by sharing what you learned with those who seek your counsel. And that's really lovely because this is what my channel is all about, is give and take, returning the favor, sharing what is learned. Not that anyone is necessarily seeking my counsel, but it's out there for anyone to take if they need it, if they come across something that resonates. That's all I can hope for, is that they'll find comfort. And the mantra here says, guidance from above, within and without, is mine. If only I ask. Ooh, isn't that so true? We don't know until we ask, right? Sometimes I know we're waiting for people to approach us and to offer us things. but there's something to be said about asking, because it might not ever happen unless we ask. And there's nothing wrong with asking. Very, very good message right off my initial intuition right here. I'm excited to dig into guidance and what it has to guide me with for the month of November. Let's move on to the book I read for this month. This book is A New Direction in Tarot by Scott Martin, and I picked up this book because Sylvie at Tarot Magpie has a Patreon, and one of the tiers, the fledglings, they have a book club, and I really felt interested in this book, and Sylvie has made it their mission to pick books that present a different lens on the tarot, and this couldn't have been a better book to start with. And it's about Pamela Colman Smith. It's about how she was influenced by theater and her life in theater and her interest in it and her knowledge of it, and how she depicted the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot. And specifically within the minors, because Arthur Edward Waite, he provided most of the direction, artistic direction for the majors, but then left the minors very open to Pamela to run with. And I am working on a full in-depth review specifically of this book. It was requested by a viewer, so thank you very much. And just a small little side note here, if there's anything you want me to do or cover in a video, if you have an idea, if you want to see something, please let me know. Leave it in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to do so. So please be on the lookout for a full review of this. It's coming out fairly soon, and I will dive deeper into my full thoughts. But overall, this book has been really helpful because it's brought forward something that I wasn't considering before. And with theater, there's a lot about staging. There's a lot about how the characters are positioned. There's a lot about the props that they're interacting with, or are they interacting with other people, other beings? Are there no characters in a scene? And all of their relationships to each other within a card matters greatly. And when I first started tarot, I really wish that this book was a thing because I was overwhelmed by the tarot, learning all the meanings, seeing the depictions really for the first time up close and personal. Like, yes, I had seen them in pop culture and here and there, but not really up close within my own deck. And this helps really, honestly, and no pun intended, to help you set the scene before you even dive into what it could mean. You take a look at the colors. You take a look at the character. Is the character seated? Is the character standing? Are they leaning forward? Are they leaning back? Is their back towards you, or are they full frontal towards you? Are they interacting with any props? What are those props? What about the background? There's choppy water in this. What could that mean? There's a moon, a very solemn looking, peaceful moon. Up here, there are nice big fluffy clouds. She is smiling. Her posture is quite open. She's got one foot that's coming down off of this platform. Yes, she is on a platform. All of these things to level set with first before saying, and I know this is like a made-up card, but for example, let's just say this was the Queen of Wands. Taking note of all of those things before reading about the definition or looking up the definition, I think I would have been less frustrated in learning tarot. So that is my quick hit overview of my thoughts. I think it is meant for anybody. There's a lot of exercises in this book that the author takes you through and wants you to do. He wants you to pull out an RWS deck and choose a card and interact with that card in any way that the prompt is, which was very cool and interactive, and what I do enjoy that with books a lot because it's taking it off the page and putting it into practice. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And the next book that I'm going to be reading for November, possibly December, but we'll see, is The Creative Tarot by Jessa Crispin. I don't have a physical copy of it just yet, but that is the next book club pick for Sylvie's channel. Please head on over, check out their Patreon, take a peruse. It's really valuable. They have a Discord all set up where you can chat with other members, and it's a really lovely place to be. And I love poking in and reading everybody's thoughts. There's different channels set up in Discord, so even if you want to talk about something that's not tarot related, there's a channel for that right there. It's really lovely. Anyway, I'm excited about this because I am or consider myself to be a creative person, and I run into a lot of roadblocks where my creativity is low or non-existent. And I think a lot of other people can relate to that. And this book brings in the tarot to help inspire, to help give you that creative push that you may need. And I'm really interested to see how the author brought together both things that I love in my life, tarot and creativity, and how they can work together to help me be a better writer, to help me be a better artist, whatever it may be, just to help me be better at being creative. Now let's segue into the decks that I used in October. And I think it goes without saying, but I did use the Centennial RWS, and I used it in conjunction with the book, New Directions in Tarot. Anytime that there was a prompt to pull out the deck and choose a card, or a specific card had a prompt for it, I was pulling this out and using it. And what I really enjoyed was that I worked with this deck a lot more than I normally do. I mostly have this deck in my collection as a reference point. It is the classic Pamela Coleman Smith artistry. It's in the more muted tones of the Centennial version. And otherwise, I don't really pull this deck out a whole lot and use it for a specific reading. I mainly use it to palette cleanse, or when I'm feeling too overwhelmed, or when I just feel like I need a reset. I bring this out because it's the classic imagery. It's things that I'm familiar with, characters I'm familiar with. But I gotta be honest with you, that book really helped me work with and look at Pamela Coleman Smith's illustrations more intimately and more deeply. And I feel like I have bonded even more with this deck than I have probably ever, which I really do appreciate. I have a newfound respect and care for this deck that I don't think I had prior to reading that book. So this is the deck that I used the most during the month, and mostly it was only for study, but I feel like I don't know, I'm feeling more inclined to bring this out more and use it in my day-to-day. The next deck I have here is Tarot of the Crystal World. In September, I used this deck a lot. I was drawn to it, and that continued to be the case in October. And I just feel like me and this deck are really getting along. We are understanding each other. There's a bond and kinship and friendship formed. And I love the artistry. I love the depictions. I love the colors that are chosen. It feels like a friend, like a really good friend. And I know I've said that before or described decks as such in other videos, and it's true. When you work with a deck, you get to know it. It gets to know you. It gets to know your energy and vice versa. And I just feel like this deck, we get each other. And I couldn't get enough of it, even though I try not to just gravitate toward the same deck, because in a collection that I have, it's not huge. I believe I have maybe 35 decks in all. But it's just enough where I want to be able to use multiple in a month to ensure that each deck is being worked with and touched and flipped through and appreciated. And it's hard to say no to this deck because it is so wonderful. And what's even more wonderful is, I know this is like a very small, very, very small guidebook, but it packs a punch. So for example here, the 9 of Coins, and I'm just choosing randomly, it says, she has worked to be successful. Prosperity is investment in endeavor. And the first part of this definition here, I think, is something that we've all associated with the 9 of Coins. But prosperity is investment in endeavor. Like, that hits. And this guidebook just does that so well. It's like compact, concise, but it really rings true. And I found that meshed with me so well. It gave just enough. It like blew my mind, and it made me go off and think about the cards in different ways, and the strength of how the words come together is just beautiful. Like chef's kiss. I love it so much. So that is Tarot of the Crystal World, fastly becoming a favorite, and the deck outside of the RWS that I actually use the most in working with it as far as daily spreads, etc. The next deck I worked with this month was the Anthropologist Tarot. This is newer to my collection, so I just wanted to incorporate it into my daily pulls just to familiarize myself with the vibe, with the images and the colors, and what it's saying, what it wants to say, and how, more importantly, how it's saying it to me. I am really enjoying working with this and have enjoyed working with this. It was a complete surprise to me because at first I really I did talk about this, I do have a full unboxing and first impressions, kind of, yeah, it's mostly first impressions, but I was inspired by Janaki and Lumeria Star. They featured this on their channels, and I was like, ooh, man, I am drawn to the colors, I'm drawn to the collage work. I think it is unlike anything that I have. It's bold, it's beautiful, I need it. And then the guidebook was featured in Janaki's review, and that really deflated me because the anthropologist, that term and what it is all about like deep study, and it's very purposeful. And I felt like the guidebook really let us down in that way because kind of similar to Tarot of the Crystal World, it's just like a little pamphlet, but it's super teeny tiny. And I mean, people are definitely having a hard time reading this. And there's only 3 keywords for each card for upright and reverse, so 6 total for each card. But I wanted more. I wanted more from it. Like, what are the images that the artist used to make this be titled The Anthropologist Tarot? But again, I go and I speak about this more in depth in that initial first impressions video. So if you want to hear more of my thoughts about that and what I come to a conclusion to, check that out. And lastly, I used the Happy Halloween Tarot and the Santa Muerte Tarot. I used these mostly in the last week and a half to 2 weeks of the month, just in perfect time for Halloween Samhain, and it was a great time. I didn't use these together, but I'm going to flip through them together just for time's sake here. But the Santa Muerte is a deck that I definitely use outside of this time of year. I love it so much. It packs a wild punch, and on top of it, I've noticed that there is like a sense of humor that this deck has, Santa Muerte, and it's a joy to work with. I'm pretty sure that Fabio Lestrani, the author and creator of Santa Muerte, is coming out with a new deck in 2025. So I'll be interested to check in on that. I know he has many other decks, but none have really called to me like the Santa Muerte has. And it's kind of like your funny uncle in a way. Um, I feel like that's kind of the perfect description for it, is your funny uncle that you love so much and you want to hang around because they're just the best time. And then I used the Happy Halloween Tarot, which is coming out mass market in early 2025. So if you're looking at this deck and you're like, oh man, I wish I could have it, don't worry, it will be coming out in mass market. So keep an eye on that. And this was just all about vibes. I looked at many of the Halloween decks on the market, and this one just really spoke to me. Of course, it had to be the one that was indie and out of print at the time, but that's just kind of my luck, kind of what happens. You can find this. It might be being marked up now just because of the mass market. Sometimes that happens. When a mass market comes out, the indie, I guess, becomes more valuable in a way. But it is around. I don't see very many people feature it on their channels. I think I've seen maybe one or two, and it is a great little deck to have. It's a great size. I love the limited color palette. It really screams Halloween, and it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed using it around that time. So that is Santa Muerte and Happy Halloween Tarot. Okay, so let's get into the decks that I plan on using or want to use in November. And again, I am a mood reader, so just because I'm picking these out now, I don't really hold myself to a strong degree in following this. It's just what I'm feeling at this moment. And a couple days from now, a week from now, it could change. But I have picked these decks out, and I would really like to use them in November. And the first one I have here is called Tarot of the Animal Lords. This is by Lo Scarabeo, however, it is out of print, and the backs are super gorgeous. There are elephants here, it's fully reversible. I believe this is the Empress card. I love the it's not sepia, but it's this lovely brownish red ochre, maybe not ochre, ochre is more like mustard, or kind of similar, but it's a very pretty, like, almost wine color. Very lovely. And I saw this, and I don't have this. This is the reason why I wanted this deck, because if you didn't know, rhinos are like very precious and special to me, and they aren't featured a lot in animal decks or in tarot decks in general. And when they are put in a place of fear or of, I don't know, negativity. And I just don't view rhinos as such. They are much more wise and rare and special than that. And I liked that this rhino is the King of Wands, and I think that is beautiful and is perfect. I think sometimes it's also the rhinos get pigeonholed into the Pentacles realm, which I do think it does make sense, but it was different. And I just loved him so much that I bought this deck solely on this card, and I'm not ashamed to say that. But it's a beautiful deck. They are doing, I'm not going to fudge the word because I can't say it, but they are doing human things. They are dressed in human-like clothes, and the Northern Animal Tarot also does that, but the style of art is very different. To me, these animals are depicted in a way that you would see, like, they're very familiar in the real world, right? You could go out and see, like, if you covered, you would see that elephant somewhere. And the Northern Animal Tarot is a lot more cutesy and cartoony than that. So they do fit different styles. This one, the energy feels a little bit different, but I just got this. I flipped through it a couple times. I've shuffled it. I like all the different kind of animals that are depicted. I think that they did a really good job selecting different animals, or if they have selected more common animals, like, let's first say, like the elephant, or like, look at this camel. I don't know. I just think they did a good job in arranging them in a way that isn't so common. Then I would like to work with the Fantasy Garden Tarot. This feels like a November deck to me because of the ballpoint pen art. It feels like something I want to dive into in the darker months. This is I can't imagine the sheer amount of time this took to put together, to draw. It's incredibly insane to me. And going into the winter months, it's all about introspection and taking your time and really sitting back and thinking about life, I guess. And it's interesting because the Nine of Wands here, the face doesn't seem to have like that shiny, super shiny coating. Like, there is some, but that makes it all the more special to me. I don't know, it just felt like it was the time. November is the time for me to use this deck. I've featured it in a small haul that I have on my channel if you want to check that out, where I unbox it and I showcase it, but I haven't worked with it since. And it just feels right to do so now. The next deck I would like to use is Daydreaming in Situ. Again, for similar reasons that I stated for the Fantasy Garden, this just feels like a November deck to me. I don't know what it is. Usually I don't deem my decks like, oh, this is November, this is December, and so on. It just feels like the right time to use it. I like the style of collage that it is, how very piecey it is. It gives it a lot of depth and texture, and that really is interesting to my eye. I like how the artist used such simplistic symbols here for each of the suits. I think that was really smart, a smart feature and design, because there's so much going on, but it still stands out by pure color alone and simplicity alone. I think it's just beautiful. And I haven't pulled this one out in a while, and I just looked at it the other day, and I was like, yep, I want to use you in November for sure. So that is Daydreaming in C2. I believe this deck is out of print. I don't know if Annie Farrar is thinking of doing a reprint, but keep an eye out on her website. The next deck and only oracle I have purposely selected is Medieval Oracle of the Beasts, and I did film a first impressions unboxing of this, but my footage was corrupted and I didn't feel like reenacting it because it didn't feel true to the first impressions part. I did just receive this not too long ago, and I have not worked with it, but the production of this deck, this is a Libra Moons Inc. deck, and they've made Serpent and the Peacock, Paul's Moon Tarot, I think it's called, and a slew of other decks, and they plan on coming out with even more, and that's super exciting. But the production quality of this packaging, the cardstock, the book, phenomenal. But this is a chunky guy. There are a total of 91 cards in this deck, and it is traditional like oracle size. They have changed the cardstock. This is a true matte cardstock, like matte through and through. This cardstock is different from the others that they have with their other decks. It does feature, the number has some gold embossing, and as well as the title and the border around the title. But the medieval theme is still present in this deck, and I am so looking forward to working with it. There are very different medieval, like fantasy kind of animals in here, and then there's also normal animals, for example, like the parrot, but the leviathan, and then we have leopard and panther, and so on and so forth. So it's a good mix of like fantasy. I mean, this is so beautiful. Look at this ladybug. But it's a good mix of that fantasy. I mean, even this giraffe, I mean, how cool. It's like, it looks medieval. The kraken. I am excited to dig into this and work with it. I'm really feeling animal energy for this month. I don't know why, but I'm just rolling with it. I do want to touch upon, thank you, Owl, for showing up. I think Owl is one of them, but in my lost footage for the first impressions walkthrough of this deck, I mean, hang on, before I get there, I know, ADHD. This is a faux leather booklet with gilded edges and a ribbon bookmark, end pages, and the quality is just, they've raised the bar, and the price for this I don't think was bad at all. But a 91 card oracle, like, very unheard of and very cool. But I did find something that was a little strange that I talked about in that original review that doesn't exist. But okay, so owl isn't one, so pardon me, but I do know lion is one. So for example, there are some animals that are repeated in this deck. So we have 50 is the lion and 51 is the lion. And when I did that first impressions, I pulled a card that had two, and I read from each. And I did this, I think, for 3 of the cards. And bat is another one that is a repeat, I believe. Bear. Yes, bat has 2. Not every animal, but maybe a good handful are repeats. And I just noticed that says like Usi. Anyway, I read through each card. So this is number 5 bat and this is number 4 bat. So they are different. They do not have the same number. I was expecting like maybe a light and a dark, but if you read word for word the bat definition number 4, and then right after read bat definition number 5, it's ultimately saying the same thing. The syntax and the order of the words is just a little bit different, a little bit changed, but the meaning is exactly the same. And I was a little bit deflated by that because I don't have the option of taking one of these bats out, because I feel like it's odd. Why wouldn't you have bat be number 4? Even if you have 2 options, it shouldn't be 5 and 4, it should just be 4. Therefore, you, the owner of the deck, choose which image resonates with you the most. And then the meaning, it stays the same. So I'm going to let you give a moment here so you can pause and read this. This is bat number 4. And then this is bat number 5. You can pause the screen and kind of come to your own conclusion, but maybe you can see what I mean. Very similar write-ups, but the imagery is very different. So I'm not quite sure what to do with that. And because it is so chunky, it would have been nice maybe to have the option to take out a few of the cards. Again, I'm not sure how many repeat like that. Maybe editing me will put in how many repeats there are. But I don't know. That's just the smallest little thing that I found. But everything else, the presentation, the card stock, it's just perfect. It's wonderful. And I'm excited to work with this. And finally, the last deck that I would like to pick up in the month of November is the Majestic Earth Tarot. I have not had the chance to do a super deep dive or even really work with it. Some of the cards used to be backwards because I was doing a card by card look through, but I stopped doing that. I feel very fortunate I came across a copy. This is very sadly and majorly out of print. You do see copies come up quite frequently, actually, I would say. I've seen this a lot, but the price is what stops a lot of people, and I can't blame them because it is quite a pricey deck. I did find a really nice copy from someone, and they weren't asking an astronomical amount in my eyes compared to what I had seen, so I jumped on it. It's like barely been used, and man, this is like one of those I was super sad to miss out on, but I'm so happy that I have it. I don't have anything like it. I love all the landscapes. I sink right into it. I like that it is a curated art deck, so all of these are pre-existing artwork pieces that someone has brought together and given tarot titles and assignments to. It gives a lot of space for you to sit and sink into. A lot of people talk about path working with this deck, which I think would be really interesting. But there's a lot of detail, there's a lot to go into, and I think that going into the darker months, that is the perfect setup to do that. We're going to be a little bit inside, like more. There's element cards too, and a title card here. But this is a good deck to start going into that introspective space for the darker half of the year, at least for the Northern Hemisphere. And I'm excited to work with this. I don't know how I want to work with it. I don't know if I'll exactly get tarot meanings from it, but it's gorgeous to look at. And I don't know, I'm just really excited to work with it because I've had it for a couple months now and I haven't really gotten to work with it. So that is the Majestic Earth Tarot. Alright, so I have 2 more little things to mention and then we can wrap up this video. But this month I finished setting up my tarot study journal, and I wanted to plug it here because this was a labor of love. It took me a long time to set up, and I'm really proud of how it came out. I really love everything about it. I am using it. I'm getting a lot of use out of it. I can start to see my vision coming to fruition with how I wanted it to work, and it's just been really lovely to have. So for a good example here, I have already pulled the Ace of Pentacles twice now, and this is how, I don't know, it's just everything that I envisioned this to be is coming to life. As I use my decks, as I note down the cards that I pull, having this is really exciting to me. And if you want to see everything about this, an explanation of how I'm using it, I will link that video above. And then the last thing I have to mention is that on the cusp of September and October, I created my first tarot tag video, and that is the tarot emoji match. And I've been seeing a slew of responses come in, and I'm just totally shocked and in awe and really grateful for those of you who have taken the time to think about these prompts and create your own responses to them. I've loved watching every single one, but to be honest, I'm like fangirling over here because there are channels on here that I completely adore and I have followed for a long time and that I look up to that have responded to my measly little tarot tag that I just thought was, I don't know, a little bit fun to do. And if you are interested in joining in, I have listed the prompts below. If you'd like to join in, you don't need to be specifically tagged for it. Please just hop in and do it. It's a lot of fun. I like especially when people create their own prompt at the end and choose their own emoji. It was such a hard set of prompts that I set myself up for, so I don't know how y'all are even coming up with things, but I am so humbled by all of the responses and the love that has been given toward the tag. And thank you so much for being here, for spending a little bit of time with me. Please give me a like and subscribe if you want to see more from me. And until next time, see you around.